Hi, Mark White here. I am the founder and president of Idaho State Planning. And if you'd come by on Friday, you would have found me vacuuming the floors as I helped my wife clean the building because we're vested in this. But you know what? You do whatever it takes to make a business go. And that's what we needed on Friday. With me today is Dr. Louise Ye-Liew of, let me say it right. Oh, I can't think of the name of
Brightview.
your,
Brightview?
oh, I wanted to say Bright Star, but that's a different thing.
That's a different thing.
Bright View, and I knew that, and I apologize because
No worries.
I do know this. And Dr. Louise has been in our part of the country for 2 years now,
Yep.
and she doesn't sleep. She's just busy, busy, busy. You were on with us not too long ago. We did a lunch and learn, and we talked about end of life planning. We talked about healthcare powers of attorney, advanced directives, and we talked about the physician's order of scope of treatment. Actually, it's physician orders of scope of treatment or post.
Yep.
And thank you. We had quite a few that joined us, and we've had a lot of questions since then. So again, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Of course, thank you.
And today, what we're talking about is kind of an extension of that, or related to, making those decisions. I think in this country we have some interesting ideas or thoughts around death and dying. And I don't know, you can say this better than me, but it seems like we want to be distanced from those decisions. We want to be distanced from that process. We don't want to be embracing or difficult to embrace a family member who's going through this. Did I say that right?
That's very true. So one of the main thing as a geriatrics physician, a conversation about death and dying is extremely important. And unfortunately, there's a lot of physicians out there that, kind of stray away from that conversation. Because a lot of times when we start talking about death and dying, about the word hospice, family members and the patients all have this deer in the headlight, look on their face and saying, oh my goodness, what are you talking about? We're totally healthy. And the best time to have a conversation is when you're healthy, is when you're cognitively present to be able to make that decision, to be able to have that discussion. And so it is extremely important, no matter what age anybody is to actually have that conversation started so that when the time does come, it's not a surprise for anybody. And so I think it's very important that, not to run away to the other side of the country,
Yeah.
to get away from that conversation. I think it should be an open conversation with the loved one so that everyone knows what they want.
So I see this, I know you see this fairly often, is we end up with a loved one in a situation where we're pretty sure that's not where they wanted to be.
Right.
But then, like you said, they didn't take the steps while they could to avoid that situation. And so now the families just, before we came on, you were talking about, a situation where you kind of got half the family thinking one way and half the family thinking
Right.
the other way. And what was interesting to me about that story is even though the individual had kind of made it clear, we had family that chose to ignore
Right.
what he had chosen. And
Right.
so I think part of this then,
This is where
Hold
you
on.
come in. This is where you're important for us. Having the lawyer draw up the advance directive and have everything notarized and legalized is extremely important. So what Mark and I were talking about before we came on was actually from personal experience with my own grandfather, who did not have the advance directives done by a lawyer. It was handwritten by him. And so my family were, as Mark was saying, on two different sides of whether or not they were going to appreciate his desire to be let go or whatnot. And I can see from both sides of the family of where they're coming from, because of course, as kids, we want our father, our mother to live forever. They're the love of our lives, right? And so there was a lot of disconnect between them. And so this is extremely important. And that's the reason why I always say, go talk to a lawyer, have these all drawn up, because these need to be legalized so that when the time does come and there's a family disconnect, then the paper itself is going to be what the doctor is going to follow. And
But
unless you have the capacity to change your mind at that time.
Yes. I was just going to add, and I think we're going to get into that in a little bit more. I was just going to add, you got to have the conversation then with whoever's going to be the decision maker. Got to have the conversation, I think, for two reasons. One, to take the burden off of their shoulders. Right? Just here, take it off of their shoulders. I'm making this decision.
Right.
And then two, explain why you're making the decision.
True.
I think in your situation, Grandpa was a widower for a couple of decades.
Yep. He was a widower for a couple of decades, and he never had the discussion. It was never a discussed topic because, it's in the Asian culture, we don't discuss personal health that way. Oh, I have the woos and the woes and the owie and stuff like that, but never the planning of the future, because that would kind of being like a prediction of the future, which ultimately we all go one way, right? But in Asian culture, it's extremely different, where they think that if we say it out loud, it's going to happen a lot sooner than not. And so it's kind of a closed topic about that. And so I think it's extremely important.
I've run into that in our society here. I have some folks who have never signed their wills because they know if they sign those wills, they're going to die.
Yeah.
Although I got thousands of folks that signed their wills and didn't die. Exactly. I've got a handful. And if I sign that, I'm going to die. Right. So let's take that though and funnel it into, is it okay if I call it a project? Because you've kind of been working on this for some time.
Yeah, we've been working on it for quite a few months. So
yeah. But what we're going to talk about today is called LuNa Hospice House. And you're taking the concept of death and dying. People are a little bit familiar with hospice, but I'm going to have you explain that just a little bit. But there are some folks that once they get to that situation where they qualify for hospice, might not have the resources, might not have the people, to make this, to improve the quality of their lives while they're still here. And so you're thinking, this was your concept was, we need a place where they can come. And we've got a staff that will love on them, and the family can come in and be involved. Stop me from talking and take over.
I love it. So as Margo said, I moved here about 2 years ago, but this has always been a dream of mine to be able to offer services for patients who are towards the end of their life. In my 10-year career as a geriatrics doctor, I've seen patients patients and family have the hard time of realizing that they're towards the end. or the family who says, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do with them. I have to be there 24/7, but I also need to work
Yeah.
because I can't be there 24/7. And then I have patients whose family say, doc, I can't afford any of this. This is just over my budget. I just can't. But if I don't work, I don't make money for the rest of my family. And so it's this whole yo-yo effect, right? And so a lot of times patients end up in a hospital and they pass away alone or hooked up to a bunch of machines. We have patients who passed away in nursing homes where, they're all in one room essentially with 5 different patients, and there's no privacy for the family to love on them. So I was blessed enough to move here and meet my partner, Lanae Hetland. And so she owns Mountain View Crossing. She has a family certified home, and she takes in a lot of the complicated patients, love on them. They get a lot better, and they're much more stable in their house. So I sat down with her one day and I said, this is my vision. This is what I really want. And she's like, you know what? I've been picturing myself doing this too. So we partnered up, started kind of looking for houses, and this is when the projects are blooming. So we found a location. It's a 12 room building in Nampa. It's a residential house. And so it looks like a horseshoe. It's on our website. It looks like a horseshoe. And each room has their own bathroom. The rooms are huge. So we can have quite a few patients, family members there, so that, when the patient is transitioning over to the home, the family can come and visit. We are going to follow the COVID rules in a common area where everyone is required to be masked in the common area, but in a room, depending on the comfort of the family members, they don't have to wear a mask if they don't wish to. But we're going to be, so each room going to have a hospital bed. The patients are going to, be cleaned with a caregiver. They're going to have fresh food. They're going to be able to just have that 24-hour caregiving without the burden of the families having to say, what do I do next? So we're going to try to offer everything at the house. We're actually making our garden right now too. We're going to have a Zen garden that is going to have a memorial area for all the patients that do pass, so that we can pray, bless them, and give them spiritual love. And so, we're definitely going to make it into a beautiful area where everyone can just like feel that, the relief, that peace there. So again, the house is going to be 24-hour staffed. So we're always going to have 2 to 3 caregivers present depending on how busy the house gets.
Right.
So the more busy the house gets, the more caregivers we're going to hopefully be able to find and hire. We have quite a good staff right now already. So if we need to, we would hire more, because obviously our goal is to be as comforting. And when the patients do move in, they don't have to think anything about anything else. When the family members drop off their loved ones, all they know is they come and visit, be the daughter, be the husband, be the wife, be whatever. And then they know they're going to be well taken care of. So food is going to be freshly made on a daily basis. We're going to really minimize the preservatives. We're always going to have snacks all over the house. So family members, if they're hungry, if they want to stay for longer, they're always going to have food ready for them as well. And then the rooms are big enough where if, let's just say, it's a couple, right, and they've been together forever and they just can't part, but they don't have the resources to be able to care for them at home, we're going to allow the husband or the wife to move in together with the patient. And then as the patient transitions on, we're going to do our best to, cater to the loved one as well. And then when she or he does pass away, then they can move back to the home and hopefully transition slowly back home. We're going to.
It's clear that you are passionate about this.
Yes.
It's clear that you have a vision for this. This is not something that you decided one night and now
No.
it is.
Right.
And so you're going to work with any of the hospice?
Any of the hospices. So if the
Okay.
patient's already on a hospice company, you know, the hospice company and the patient will move in together. So
Okay.
the nurses, the you know, the aides, the social workers, the priests, the spiritual, everybody will still stay within the same team. The only difference is the rooms will be with different hospice teams. There may be a little overlapping, but again, in the common area, there's going to be, you know, rules with the COVID and everything. So the patients don't have to feel overwhelmed. Oh my gosh, do I have to choose their hospice team? We don't have a hospice team. We are completely, you know, not contracted with any hospice team. So we're going to do everything possible to try to allow the patients to just be at peace with the company they have chosen and give them that love. We're also going to try to find a death doula as well, so that when the patient, because that's a huge thing, I think, you know, being able to talk through it and allowing the patient to really visually see. Because a lot of times the patients actually feel it, but they can't let go yet because their loved ones haven't let them go yet. And so I think a death doula will be amazing, where they can help walk them through it and allow them to peacefully pass away too. So
I'm hearing a couple of things. Let me see if I can sort it out a little bit.
sorry, just want to ramble.
You know, your passion is evident. I just think this is a wonderful idea. I think people will truly love it. And so I was going to go back to kind of the people that we would probably see, maybe two categories anyway. There would be those that don't have anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and if you're working with a hospice company and they have such wonderful social workers, they're going to go, I don't want this person to die alone in the hospital. They're going to come to Dr. Louise and say, listen, can we make this happen? So that would be one group.
Yes.
And then the other one would be the families that, you know, just don't have the resources. This is tough stuff, and to be able to afford it, it can just be overwhelming.
So that's very true. So we're going to do everything possible because a lot of times family do not want their loved ones to pass away in their home, because that's a reminder for them. So the hospice house is there to, you know, let them not worry about that part too. So most of the rooms are privately paid, very reasonable. There are monthly rates, and then there's also a daily rate, or there's a prorated rate, right? So and then there's going to be some rooms that are going to be Medicaid. So we're applying for Medicaid beds as well, because obviously we want to do everything possible to help the patients. Eventually, Lanae and I are going to work on getting some fundraising out so that we can have patients that are not qualified for Medicaid, but don't have to research financially, so that we can try to get them scholarships to be able to come into our home as well. So we're working on all these different projects to really try to make sure that we get the wide variety that we need, so that the patients all feel loved. And we're not just focusing only on a certain type of patients. We want to give everybody a chance to die with dignity. That's the biggest thing, dying with dignity. Because a lot of times, if they're hooked up on machines or they're in so much pain and nobody's there for them to call out, it breaks my heart, you know? And so I just want them to be able to be in a room that is completely homely. And when you look at the pictures, Mark, and you got to come and visit, by the way.
I got it now.
So homely. Lanae did the renovation with Devin, our administrative leader. And the house is so beautiful that I would even move in if I could, you know? And so I really think this is going to be one of those amazing places that, and when people come in tour, they're like, can I move in now? So
this is an interesting concept here in Idaho. I'm not aware of another one.
It's the first hospice house in the Treasure Valley.
So if you live in Ada County, you can't come live there?
Oh, you can totally. Anyone who needs to die with dignity, come on in.
Now, and another thing that you and I talked a little bit about this before we got on, is I know in my life, I've heard this so many times, there's the buzzword you use, oh, they're on hospice, which means they're gonna die any minute.
Not necessarily at all.
Oh, they're on hospice, so that means they're gonna die.
Nope.
And we're all gonna die at some point.
Correct.
Right?
Correct. So,
but hospice, that isn't necessarily the deal.
correct. So with the hospice word, hospice is when patients think of the word hospice, they get scared. That's it. They think that's it. But in the 10 years that I've been a geriatrics doctor, it's completely different. I've had patients on hospice who have graduated, and I say it very lightly, graduated, meaning that they come off the hospice team for a few months, for a year, for 2 years, and then they go back on the hospice team as they decline. So they can graduate as long as they stabilize or has a little oomph in their health again. And so, it's not that the patient, once they're on hospice, that's it, they're done. It's more of the comfort, the resources. Taking away medication is a huge thing, because a lot of times when patients are on hospice, they're either over medicated because truly they were beneficial for the patients before, but not necessarily working now. But a lot of, in the medical world, a lot of times everyone's afraid for the patients to get off of the medication that has worked for so many years. And so, with the hospice team, they monitor very closely. We're going to discontinue this medication slowly. Then we'll discontinue this medication. And sometimes, quite a high percentage, I would say about 40 to 50% of the time, the patients just has their health back because it's not suppressing their health anymore. And then there are other patients who, refuse the medications, refuse, the treatment plan. And so then their heart gets enlarged, their lungs are bad or whatnot. And then they go on hospice and they get the oxygenation. They get like the simple, more alternative type of medicine that will kind of calm them. And then they get better again, right? So we just don't know. But the word hospice just means that you're going to have more resources. You're going to have a social worker. You're going to have a pre-spiritual, guidance. You're going to have a doctor, the medical director that's assigned to that hospice team. And you're going to have, just a bunch of medical team that is going to be catering to that patient. And I think that's going to be very, very much more beneficial than if a patient was going to go through this alone and trying to figure out what's my next step. This doctor tells me this doctor tells me this, what's my next step? So essentially a hospice team kind of tells you, this is what's going to happen. This is how we're all going to work together.
So it is not unusual for someone who comes on to hospice to rally, and that doesn't mean now they're going to live forever.
Right. They're not immortal.
Right. But at least in the short run, I could see that we're taking some medications that at 65 means we're going to, it's going to preserve our life for quite some time. And when we're 89, why are we now taking it? Because how much longer? So I can see that. And so it's truly a process. And I guess that's part of my concern and why I'm really intrigued with this, with your concept. And that is it was not many generations ago that grandma and grandpa lived in the house with us. We had, multiple generations. Mm-hmm. And we had maybe family not too far from us. And so the family could be there. And we watched the process. We watched grandma and grandpa age. We watched them get sick. We watched them deal with some health issues. And then we watched them die. And that was, I think we were just a little closer to that whole thing. Doesn't mean it was easy.
Right.
It just means that we were associated with that. And it's just seems to me that we're really trying to distance ourselves from that anymore. And we're not familiar with the process.
Right. So the problem is nowadays, everything's getting more expensive, right? Care is getting more expensive. Housing is getting more expensive. It's ridiculous now. And so there's a lot of family members that are in the sandwich effect, where they have to care for their little ones and they have to care for their older ones.
Yeah.
And so it's more of, what can I afford? What can I do? How much time do I have to be able to do all of this? And from back in the day, they were not living as long as they were, or not as long as they are
as
now.
we are now. No.
And so because of that, the number of years that they have to be in a sandwich effect is just like
longer,
significantly
much longer. Yeah.
So the time has changed, financially everything has changed. And so the hospice house is allowing the family to still continue on with their lives hopefully at a much nicer pace, so that they don't feel overwhelmed having to take care of their loved ones and the other loved ones, right? So they're not so broken in the middle.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, and you said this, and I just wanted to follow up a little bit on it, because I've seen it in so many situations where a spouse, the kids become caregivers, and that's a much different role. It takes much different skills. It takes a whole different emotional effort than it is to be the spouse, the husband, the wife, a father, mother, son or daughter. And if they can understand what it is that you're doing, they can jump back into that role of being the son and visiting with mom, and not have to worry that whole time about all these things that you're not familiar with,
Exactly.
Care is more complicated now. It just is. And we don't have all the training to be able to provide that.
That's very true.
I visited with my mom last night. A number of years back, we found she helped us find a really nice it was independent living, assisted living. And she transitioned. A couple of things happened, and she would not come and live with us. She says that from time to time, but she would not leave now. Not too long ago, she counted that during the day, she had 20 contacts from the folks at the community. 20 times during the day that somebody touched base. How are you doing? Here's some fresh water.
That's a beautiful community.
Oh,
you wouldn't have that at home.
Well, how do you do that at home? And when the caregiver that came in while I was on the phone with mom, when she left, she said to my mom, "Love you, Mary Jo."
Aww.
And I'm sitting there going, how as the caregiver at home, we get stretched so thin that it's easy not to feel that love.
Yes.
Because you are so overwhelmed.
Right. And the family member doesn't want to burden you either. Like the residents don't want to burden you. That's what my mom always tells me. If anything happens, let me go. It's okay. I don't want to burden you and the family. It's not a quality of life for me, and it's not a quality of life for you guys. And so, and it's so beautiful. There's so many beautiful caregivers out there that they were meant to be, amazing caregivers.
And I'm a great son.
Yes, you are.
You know how I know that?
How?
Because mom told me 3 times on the phone last night, I'm a great son. You know, I don't know that I'm a great caregiver.
Right.
That again, that's a whole different set of skills emotionally. Oh my gosh. And so I love those people and I tell them that on a regular basis.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. So, couple of the down and dirties here. People maybe don't understand this. Hospice, they're not going to get a bill for hospice.
No, it's all covered by Medicare. The hospice home is not covered by Medicare. That is a private pay.
So
Or
that's
Medicaid.
yeah, that's where I wanted to drill in. This is not the hospice care, which is awesome and wonderful, and I think that's what makes this work, is the connection to hospice.
Right.
Which maybe that's why you called it the hospice home. I'll think through that. I'll get there. But to be there is private pay. You're working on the Medicaid
Yep.
certification.
We're going to work on scholarship funding.
And then, yeah, there will be, hopefully as this goes along, there will be additional funding for families. So I know that I know that you know the hospice people. So I know that the word's going to get out to them. How are people going to find out about you if they're going, whoa, this is a great idea, which it is. And do you know how they know it is a great idea? Because I told them that it was a great idea. Well, and you told them. So between the two of us, we said it's a great idea.
Yeah.
And no, they're just going to hear this and go, yes, I like that so much.
Right.
So how do they find out? What do they need to do?
So we have a website. The website is lunahh.org, LUNAHH.org. And then the phone number that they can reach us at is 208-501-6217. And our administrative, again, is Devin. And so he will be the one picking up the phone. He can give a lot more information. We're in a process of just getting all of the zoning and planning done. And once all of that is done, our goal, and we'll have a big announcement once we can officially open. So our goal hopefully is this summer. And so we're going to be hearing back from the Nampa city soon to be able to know whether or not we can open up soon.
So licensing and permits
all
pretty much in place.
Yep.
The only thing left
is just the zoning and planning. That's it.
Is zoning. That is so unusual that it would be the last thing that you need to overcome. I can't see him saying no, but we're gonna have to wait till the end of the month, you think?
Yeah. The end of the month we're in hearing, and then hopefully by then we'll have an update for everybody, and then we can start having our patients move in and we can start loving on them.
And I can speak from personal experience. You mentioned this. I can come back and I can verify what you say. There are people that have a gift. They really do. They have the empathy. They have the discipline to go get their training that they need. And they do such a wonderful job. I'm not saying they're going to replace you, and that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about leveraging your time and your emotions and your energy. And so I just love this idea. So we're going to hang up for today, but we're going to get back together hopefully soon, hopefully next month, and go, yay. And, and maybe you'll have to do this from LuNa Hospice.
We're going to be doing it from the home so we can give a short little tour. But, I really think it'll be amazing for you to come out before then. So we'll set up a time between me and you, okay? Absolutely. I expect it. All right. Well, Dr. Louise Ye-Liew, who is, oh my gosh, just multi-talented. Again, I don't know that she sleeps. She's got the cutest kids. Oh my word.
By the way, she's practiced in the ancient art of sticking needles in you.
Yes.
And so, you know, I think that you've undertaken anytime you see something that you feel can help people,
Right.
that you haven't hesitated too long to get involved with that and to help people out.
I just
One
want
more
to do
thing I have to
everything.
say. One more thing I have to say is you're a geriatrician, which means you have a particular love of, passion for, and training for working with our older population.
That's correct.
All right, very good. Dr. Louise, thank you as
Thank you,
always.
Mark.
And again, hopefully we'll be back together in a month going, yay, touchdown, let's go.
Sounds good.
All right, take care. Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
day.